Does Sonic Frontiers have too many references? This is something I've been hearing all over Twitter recently, and I think it's about time we discuss it just a little bit into one coherent video so everyone has somewhere to go and discuss this. I don't believe this needs to be a big deal. Honestly, I don't think it is, but it's just a little example on how writing is different between different writers. Ian Flynn does his own thing, Pontek and Graf does their own thing, and that's okay, but let's just talk a little bit about references and whether or not it is a big deal in Sonic. I think what we're all getting at the end of this is the fact that these references seem to come out of nowhere when compared to past games, and that's where this whiplash comes in, because you come from somewhere like Forces and then you come into Frontiers and it's like all these past things that we've been waiting for are just suddenly being thrown into the forefront in a way that we've never had before. Suddenly Dark Gaia is a thing, suddenly Extreme Gears are here, suddenly Chow are here, suddenly Silver's here. Everything's being thrown at you at once. If there's any question you've ever had about the Sonic universe, the answer in this game is always yes, yes, yes. And while that does work to an extent because, Sonic fans wanted to see this stuff, there are points where it does feel forced. And for me, that's my main gripe with all these references, just the fact it does feel very forced in a lot of instances. The one I always go to is with Amy and Sonic during I believe it's the final cutscene in the island when he's leaving. The first thing he says is something along the lines of like, yeah, I'm going to be leaving now, I'm going to be back before you do another tarot card reading, and it's like, we get what the reference is, right? Oh, Amy's into tarot cards. Oh, Sonic CD. Oh, we've seen it before. And it's like, cool, we get it, but it doesn't match anything that was happening in the scene. And it just feels very stuffed in there just to say, like, a big wink at the camera, like, hey guys, you know about tarot cards, right? You're a big Sonic fan. And it's like, cool. But why did it need to be there? It's not even like this is something that hasn't been referenced multiple times within the median of Sonic throughout the years already. Like, we literally had Sonic Origins do this exact same thing. We don't need to keep hearing it over and over again. I was this close for waiting for them to once again mention that Tails likes mint candies. Like, you don't understand how often they bring this up. They literally brought this up in the most recent issue of the IDW comics. They will constantly bring up the fact that Tails likes mints. And I get it. Like, these are little quirks about the characters we all like and it's cute. But like, when you continuously do it, it gets kind of stale, It makes it seem like these are their only personality traits. All Amy is a girl that likes tarot readings. All Tails is a little kid who likes sweets, It's weird. And all Knuckles is a person that likes grapes. I don't even know, did they bring that up? It feels like that's something they'd bring up. But the thing is, are these references overused is the main point. And in that regard, I don't really think so. A lot of these references you have to go out of your way to discover. The big ones like the Chow Garden and stuff. You have to go to specific locations or stand around for enough time to access these cutscenes or things that happen within the game. So most of the time you're not even going to hear them. You also have to think about the length of this game when it comes to that. This is like a 30-40 hour experience depending on who you are. So depending and compared to other Sonic games, it's a very different thing of how many references you can stuff into something, If you say something like, I don't know, Generations being 10 hours or whatever, if you have that, there's only so much you can stuff in there. And in that short period of time, it will seem a lot less than if you're seeing in Frontiers and it has even just like 6 or 7, just a handful of references being thrown at you at once. It seems a lot bigger than it actually is. I really don't think there's as many as people are saying, but I also understand the feeling that it feels like there's so many. Like, it really feels like that most of the time. To the point where I feel that Sega was getting sick of it themselves, which is why a lot of these references are hidden away and hard to come by, because it's just being thrown at you so many times. Again, when you've come from Forces or any other Sonic game, and all these things are now happening, it's like, I get what they're trying to do. Ian Flynn has to connect all these universes and get it into a steady timeline where everything works, but it feels like this needed more than one game to do that, as in we needed to just put a few references and layer them and sprinkle them in there before we moved it on to the next game, because now it feels like these characters have taken a complete tonal shift and all these references are coming out at once. It just doesn't feel natural, to me at least. It just doesn't feel natural. It definitely needed a game or two, because now you've got this scenario as well where obviously you know that Ian Flynn is a big Son Amy fan, but now it feels like they've just shoved this in here and it doesn't make sense, because while we always knew that Sonic and Amy had some sort of romantic feeling for each other, it was not portrayed well in the games. There was very little interaction between these two in Forces, in Lost World. They barely interacted at all because Amy wasn't a mainstay anywhere, you know, she hardly was in these stories. So then you come to Frontiers and it's suddenly like, oh, they almost seem to be flirting. She's talking a lot about love, you know, Sonic's not backing away. He's engaging with these conversations with her. He, at the end of the game, you know, he hugs her and embraces her. There's no turning away. He just does it. He's gonna miss her. You know, he's saying all these things, and there's some cut ones I've heard about him wanting to share an umbrella with her. All these things it's just whiplash. It just comes out of nowhere and you're just like, what? Now there's suddenly this big romantic connection we've never seen before. Now it feels like all those Son Amy shippers, you know, they were right, they were justified, and it all comes from this one game. But, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing still. I understand he's trying to connect these universes. It's just interesting when you come from all these other games and then come to this one and you notice all this stuff. You start getting Dark Gaia, you know, they start referencing Sonic 3, they start referencing Chaos and Takao and everything else they can think of. But I just feel it needed another game or two to make it work. That's all I'm saying about it. I don't think the references are bad. I actually like some of them, but it definitely needed a while and more of a subtlety to it, you know, instead of just throwing it out at the wall, because again, it makes some of the dialogue feel stiff when it didn't need to be, because they really didn't need those references at some point. But that's basically all I have to say on the topic. What do you guys think about all these references in Sonic Frontiers? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Let me know in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.